What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast, where we talk about our favorite fantasy series and topics. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, and today we are discussing the first book in the Green Bone Saga, Jade City by Fonda Lee. Before we get into that, though, please do us the favor of liking and subscribing here on YouTube. It helps us out a lot and is a great free way to help support the channel. You can also follow us on Twitter at Files Fantasy or look up Fantasy Files Podcast in the search. We will be covering the Green Bone Saga all November, leading up to the final book, Jade Legacy, which gets released at the very end of the month. Depending on how the episodes work out, if we need to do a filler episode, we'll probably do either the next Dresden Files book or Voice of War and its sequel. And then in December, Gabe will be choosing 3 books that he wants me to read to discuss on the podcast, and we'll let you know what those are when we get closer to December. If you guys would like to recommend a book for us to add to our TBR, or if you would just like to chat, then leave a comment down below or catch up with us on Twitter or email. We would love to hear from you guys. Without further ado, let's talk about what we've been reading. Anything new for you, Gabe?
No, nothing new. Nothing new that I haven't read before. You know, I read Jade City.
Besides like podcast stuff.
Yep. No, I get what you're saying. So I, of course, read Jade City, and such a good book. And you might laugh at me for this, but I read the first book of The Land again.
Oh, didn't you just do that recently?
Pretty much like a month ago. Dude, I love the series so much. Like it's so drawing to me and so like attractive to me. I just love to read it, man. It makes me feel more than most books do. But I think the reason why is because I haven't branched out, or maybe I just haven't talked to you enough about it, but like I don't really know where to go next. So then like when I'm at work, I just like, okay, this is what I love, so I'll pick that and then listen to it, you know, because then it keeps me busy and I don't have to worry about finding something new and yada yada yada.
Well, you know, we have several advanced reader copies that we've been sent that you could.
That's true.
Yep,
and I have them. Yep, that's very true. I don't think I thought about the time, but I finished the first one. It's only 8 hours long, so that was done.
Yeah.
And then hopefully I'll start the next Jade City, you know, for next weekend.
Right.
Kind of just go slow through that and see for the rest of this week. But yeah, not very exciting on my reading front, man. Not very exciting, but it's all good.
Right on. Cool. Have you been watching any good TV or anything?
Yeah, so my girlfriend is obsessed with Gossip Girl.
Oh.
Yeah. And I've been watching it, man, and I fell into the trap of the teen drama once again. It's happened to me before. I fell into the trap. It's actually pretty good. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite show, but it's good.
Yeah.
So we finished Sex Education. So we watched that all the way through.
Oh.
It's super good. Yeah, all done with Sex Ed, man. It's incredible. And then what else? We finished Hill House recently too. Watched all that. Also super good. Watched a couple movies. Like we watched Friday the 13th today, which I haven't seen in forever, and it was kind of cool to watch it again. And then I see in your notes here, it's video games. I've also been playing Horizon Zero Dawn again, which is something that I played a long time ago. Like when it came out, like for PS4, like right when it came out, I played it all the way through. I put so many hours into it, probably 50 or 60 hours in the game. And so I started again, and that's kind of another trap. It's super fun. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me, man. That's all on my the literary side. That's all about it.
Yeah, I've been itching to get back into Horizon Zero Dawn as well. I think I played it right when it first came out as well, and liked it a lot. I don't think I ever played the DLC.
I also have not, but I have it this time. I had to rebuy it, and so I bought the DLC version, so I have it.
Oh, okay,
it's done. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's definitely something I would want to play on computer now that now that I have a laptop and stuff.
Yep.
because man, those graphics are so good.
Oh
and
man,
that world is so good. I
Yep.
really like that game.
Yep, I did too.
Kind of in that same vein, I wonder if it's on PC. I think it is, but have you heard of Days Gone?
Is that a zombie game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's it's kind of similar to Horizon Zero Dawn in just the way that the world is open to you and you have all these side missions that you actually like care about, and the characters and the story is so compelling.
Yep.
And the graphics are really similar.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It's set in Oregon,
Okay. Yeah.
in the Pacific Northwest, and you're riding a motorcycle all
Yeah.
through
Okay. Yep.
Oregon and you're fighting zombies after the apocalypse, and it's awesome. I really like it.
For sure. I would say that's the game when they broke. I think they broke a record for the most zombies on a screen at one time. The hordes in that game are mind blowing, man. Like thousands of zombies. You know, towards the end when it gets crazy, and you gotta like juke them out and run through these buildings when you got 700 zombies chasing you. It's cool. I haven't played it yet. My brother played it through and beat it, and I would watch him play, and it was super fun. I was like, dude, that looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. There's lots of really like fun weapons and creative ways that you can use to like trap the zombies and kill them and stuff. What was I gonna say about, we were talking TV shows. Oh, you mentioned okay, so you mentioned Gossip Girl.
Yeah, yeah.
And dude, I saw this YouTube video the other day. And I found the video at like 8 o'clock at night, and it was essentially a 2.5 hour roast of the Vampire Diaries.
Oh my gosh, dude. Oh,
and
wow.
So at first, and I'll be totally honest, when I was younger, I watched the hell out of Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
Like I watched that show, and then even by the time that I was like, even when I was like, I'm not into this show anymore, the final season had come out, and this is like maybe 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I gotta watch the final season just to see how it wraps up.
Yep.
But yeah, dude. And so I clicked on this YouTube video, and I'm like playing video games or whatever. And it was so it's like this some chick that's just reviewing the series and roasting the hell out of it. And it was so funny and like oddly compelling. Like for some reason, I just could not stop watching it.
Yeah.
So I watched all 2.5 hours of this video of this girl talking about it and roasting it. And yeah, it was super funny because it was both nostalgic, but also like this show was so bad that like this girl is roasting it, and it's so funny.
That's awesome, dude. That's so awesome.
It was, before I knew it, it was like midnight, and I'm still watching this thing on my phone.
Yep.
Speaking of television shows, the new Dexter season has just come out at the time of this recording. Wow. I get to watch it after we record this. And so I'm so excited for this. I have been waiting, I think like 6 months ago or more, I found out that they were doing one more season.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait for this, because how the show ended before was so dissatisfying, and so many people were so upset about it, that for them to like it's not a brand new show, they're just essentially adding one more season to it years later, years after the show is finished. And so it's like, I don't know, it's a show that is so close to my heart. I was so into it for so long, and I am just beyond excited to see how they wrap this up. I couldn't be more over the moon about it.
That's awesome, man. I remember my mom was into Dexter, and this was, quite a few years ago when I lived at home and whatnot, and I would watch it with her. I never like started at the beginning and followed through. Like I would catch an episode with her and then be gone for a couple episodes and come back. But the way that she would describe the premise of it and how everything was working, I was like, dude, this is cool. So that's actually on my list of something to watch. Like even
Yes.
I like have it on my phone. Like even typed it in my notes, and I was like, that's Dexter, something that I want to get to before we talked. Like this is not something I just did. So yeah, so that's cool, and that's super exciting. And aren't there like a bunch of seasons, like several, like
yeah. So there was 8 seasons,
okay,
and
yeah.
The later seasons aren't as good, but they're fine. And then as you get to the end of season 8, there's just this huge disappointment of a finale.
Yeah.
And so many people were left confused and not understanding like exactly what happened. And so now to put out this 9th season is to wrap it up the way the fans want.
Oh,
and
wow.
I
Okay.
think I think that's something so special that the showrunners have done, because like they didn't need to. Like it's been like at least 6 years or more since the show has finished up. And so it might even be like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And so for them to come back and do that all these years later, it's just like, wow, you guys, like I don't know what prompted them to do it now, but it's like, man, you guys really cared enough to come back and finish what you started, and that's really cool. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, highly recommend it. I think you and your girlfriend would both really like it. It's definitely super bingeable. Like at the end of every episode, you just get this feeling like I have to see what happens next.
Yeah, so that's good TV.
All right. Speaking of, I'll get through this real quick. Speaking of advanced reader copies that we got, I right before going into Jade City, I listened to our advanced reader listener copy of Oathbreaker by A.J. Retker. And I talked about this a little bit on the show last week. I don't know if you remember, but it's kind of a darker fantasy story. And there was a couple things that I was upset about. One of them being kind of this thinly veiled religious, racist bigot kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I was about halfway through at that point, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna DNF it or if I really liked it or what. But I kept going over the next couple days, and I got to the end of it, and I was like, that was phenomenal. That was really, really good. And getting to the end of it, I was like, it was just that feeling of like, oh my God, I need the second book now. Like, wow. I need to know what happens, because the end is kind of a cliffhanger, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
And the main character makes such a crazy decision. Like all these horrible, horrible things happen, and he has to make this awful decision. And it's just like, oh my God, like, oh my God, like that is it's so wild. And so I really, it's really insane how much my view of this book kind of flipped in the second half of it. And everything I read as I'm listening through it, I'm kind of thinking of, if it'd be a book that you would like or not.
Yeah.
And I am not entirely sure. I think there are things that you would like about the book, I don't really know why you wouldn't, but part of me was like thinking he might find this a little boring at times, because for a while, like, not a lot is happening. They're just kind of going from place to place and kind of traveling. And so, yeah, I really don't know if it's something that you would be interested in or not. I know you would definitely love the ending. But everything else, I'm not quite sure. So, you know, if you want to give that a try sometime, you can make your own decision on it. It really could go either way.
For sure.
But yeah, I had a ton of fun with that second half. And I was just glued to it the entire time during the second part of that book.
Nice.
Then of course read Jade City, and now I have started the second book in the Wheel of Time series, The Great Hunt. And oh my God, I think I'm going to become a huge fan of this series. I really like The Great Hunt so far. I'm probably about halfway through it, and I am just completely addicted to it. I've been getting back into Skyrim. I've been playing a ton of Skyrim.
Nice.
And, you know, that's a game where I can kind of just shut off my brain and kind of go and do things in that world. And so I just have like The Great Hunt playing while I play that game, and they pair up so well. There's only been a couple times where I've played a fantasy game while listening to like a fantasy audiobook. And they go together so well.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I'm absolutely loving Wheel of Time. I'm very cautiously optimistic for the show. I'm hoping that they won't really change a whole lot of things. But yeah, could not be happier with The Great Hunt right now.
Nice.
And lastly, I have a physical copy of this book. I don't know if I've told you about the Dragonlance series, but from what I've understood, it's part of kind of the larger world of like Dungeons and Dragons, and that kind of lore and stuff. And so I have this book, the Thieves Guild, and it's a ton of fun. I'm just reading it a little bit every night, and it's basically just about a thieves guild that just is kind of doing their thing in this kind of dark, grim dark kind of city. So that's a lot of fun too. It's very very Assassin's Creed. Like, we get to see them like infiltrate certain like houses and big structures and stuff, and kind of crawling up on the ledge and stuff like that. It very much caters to that.
That's cool.
So I'm having a ton of fun with that as well. All right. I think that's all that I've read recently. Let's start talking about Jade City. We'll get into spoilers here. So if you haven't read the book, I highly recommend that you do that and then come back for this, because we will be talking about major plot points and what we expect for the future in these books. So spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1, you've been warned. All right. So you called me the other day and you were like, I am loving this book. What was kind of your journey through this book like over the past week?
So, man, honestly, it was not what I was expecting, because I remember when you told me about this book so long ago, and you said some stuff about the Jade, and I was kind of confused, and you were like, they almost treat it as a drug, and so I went into it with that knowledge, right? Just kind of like, not quite sure what it's going to be about, and it did not, it was wonderful. It was so good, and so like, starting it off, it was just a little bit slow at the beginning, but it was more because on my end, like, I was trying to figure out like, the way that things work and the place of everybody and how the world works and the political, because this book has got a lot of political aspects to it. like
Right.
a ton. And so yeah, so once I got everything figured out, man, it was so cool to see the way that, the way that the clans work and the way that Jade works, and kind of the battle between these two clans, and what, that basically the decisions that had to be made, right, to get to a certain point and to get there. So it was like, man, it was a journey. Like I remember that, I read, I deliver for Amazon, so I read while I'm working, and I'm just listening, got my AirPods in. And there were so many times where like I'm just like, no way, like no freaking way, like feel like figuring new stuff out and this and that. So I thought it was super good. And I mean, yeah, that's probably all I have for the journey. Like it was a journey. That's the best way to put it. It was a journey.
Right. Yeah, I liked this book a lot too. Yeah, I don't really know what I was expecting when I went into it either. People had sold it to me as like magical Yakuza kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And I think it does that pretty well.
Yep.
I wish there had been a little bit more like morally gray kind of organized crime kind of thing in the book, because essentially, these are Yakuza like organizations, and they're basically at this point in time, they're basically legal. Like they basically operate freely, in full sight of the government, and they're backed by the government. Like each clan kind of has their own politicians that like claim them and kind of are like on their side. And so I thought that was interesting to see, like, what if our real life mafias had become not, I don't know if I'd call them like upstanding citizens, but operating freely in the world, like not having to be secretive about their dealings.
Yeah.
And so I definitely thought that was kind of cool. They, much like the mafia, they tax their clan citizens, the people that support them, but also use that money to like repair those people's broken shops, or to pay for this and that for them. And so it's not really like this darker side of extortion. It's basically like they're kind of taxing their part of the city, and then they give back to the community in that way. So you could either look at that as a good or bad thing. I think I'm a little bit of a mix of both, just because I really wanted there to be like a kind of darker criminal kind of aspect to this. But overall, I did like it. I'm really interested to see like how it progresses throughout the other books. Like, we see politicians get upset with them near the end of this book, as the war starts, as the real the Jade War is beginning. And the politicians are kind of like, well, this isn't what I signed up for. And it's like, no, this is exactly what you signed up for. Like, even the Green Bones, the Call family, it's mentioned a couple times that it's only been recently that they are legally free to operate, and that before they were like this criminal organization that was very much like operating kind of under the radar in a way. And it was much more dangerous to be a Green Bone. And so I'm kind of interested to see like what happens with those politicians when they realize like, oh, this isn't just a business arrangement. Like these guys do have roots in criminal activity, and they are more dangerous than we've been giving them credit for.
For sure.
I definitely think I liked it more the first time I read it. When I read it the second time, I understood more, but I wasn't like as enthralled with it as I was. But I think
Mm.
that might just be because doing this reread for this podcast episode is so close to when I listened to it like 2 weeks ago or whatever. And so I think that's the main reason why it didn't hit as hard this time. But I do very much like this book, and I am super excited to move on to the next ones and see what it has in store. This series really makes me want to read more like gangster or crime family kind of books.
Yep, I agree.
I don't really know like what those would be, but if anybody has a recommendation, definitely leave that in the comments. If you've read kind of a, fictional gangster mob boss crime family kind of book that you could recommend, I definitely add it to the TBR.
Nice.
Yeah, what would you rate this book for yourself, do you think?
I would probably give it like an 8 out of 10, I would say.
Yeah, I'm probably in that range too, for sure.
Yeah, and so it was, and mind you, I'm basing that off of what I read prior, right? Like the Dresden Files and the Land series and this and that. And again, this is kind of a newer, like it's urban fantasy per se, but the subject is a lot. It's it's new to me. It's a new thing. So I think for the first kind of genre of this sort, it was a really good opener. It was kind of a good little segue into this kind of, like you said, crime family stuff slash magical in some ways and whatnot. So overall it was awesome. But yeah, I would probably say 8 out of 10. There were a couple things, like it was slow for a little bit and I didn't understand a lot at first, and it took some time to like get me adjusted to it and whatnot. And I would say that's probably the main reason why I didn't give it a 10 out of 10. But yeah,
Sure.
so I would say 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm definitely somewhere right in that range as well. I I actually, when I first read this, I started reading it because I think I had seen Daniel Green's review of Jade Legacy because he got an advanced reader copy of it.
Oh,
Um, and he had like really, really high praise for it. So I'm super excited to get to Jade Legacy because it
yeah.
sounds like, and I may have misunderstood something, but it sounds like these books take place over like, 40 years or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And from what I understood, and I could be totally wrong, maybe I just misunderstood, but in Jade Legacy, we see all these characters, be super old
Yep.
and have like the new generation comes in probably near the end or something.
Okay.
So I'd be interested to see if I heard that correctly or if I understand that correctly. But if that's what it does, that is really, really enticing to me.
Yeah.
Because even books like Wheel of Time that have like 14 or 15 books, they're taking place over like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And so, it's not often that you get a fantasy book where it takes place over this huge span of years and you get to see these characters grow old and mature both physically and mentally. And yeah, so I think that would be super cool.
No, that is super cool. I see. I had no idea that that's what it was. I love the generation skipping stuff because the way that this book is set up is so like generational, right? Like it's like
Right.
the whole hierarchy and everything. Like that's how it works. Like you get new people that come in and then they grow, rank up and do this and this and this. So that would be super cool to see where the people that we know now are lined up in 20 years or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of advanced reader copies, I have an advanced reader copy of Jade Legacy, but they sent it to me in the like an ebook form. And so
Oh,
I sent them an email and I'm like, hey, can we get instead of 2 ebooks, can we get 2 audiobooks?
yeah.
And so I'm waiting for them to get back to me on that. Hopefully we can get it before the November 30th release date to be able to put our review out right as it comes out.
Oh, cool.
Oh, so one last thing about this. So I ended up ordering the Illumicrate editions of all three books, the trilogy that Illumicrate put out. They're like these super special editions. They were way more expensive than I planned on them being.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super excited for these to come in the mail. They should be here like mid-December. And yeah, we'll do a fun unboxing video for you
Okay,
guys.
that's cool. That's cool.
All right, let's talk about Fonda Lee for a minute, the author. Um, so I found out today that she is actually a black belt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That makes
Um,
sense. You know, I could
right?
see that. I could see that.
So she obviously uses the knowledge gained in that to write her action scenes,
Yep.
because these action scenes were really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody was fighting anybody, it was a very, very good scene, and I just wanted them to keep on going, and I wanted more of them. So
Yep.
those were very good. What did you think of some of the lingo in this book?
I I loved it, man. It was very interesting. She does such a great job of creating like, you know, this like very new and new to, you know, something that I've never heard, right? Like it's
Yeah,
very much associated with just with the book. Example, like that's cut KK. You know, it feels gangster, but it's not like
yeah,
corny. It's not like kind of weird, but it, you know, it feels cool enough to where you're like, oh, okay, that's, you know, that's pretty sweet.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, I thought it was good. And there's a couple other, you know, words that I can't recall, but they're definitely in there, and I noticed them to the point where I was like,
yeah,
all right, that's, you know, that's kind of genius. You know, like it popped it in
yeah,
there and it works really well and whatnot. So I thought it was cool. And then the other half of that too is, you know, this is a very like, you know, Chinese or Asian either or, you know, inspired book, right? So there's a lot of
right.
like, you know, the way that they say people's names, like it's always last name first, like call Hilo or call Lon or whatever else.
Yeah,
And so I don't know if I classify it as lingo, but I would say it's part of the speech directive, right? It's part of the way that
right.
kind of she tells the story. And so that's always cool. And I love the culture and I love the way that it's put together, man. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, things like that's cut KK, like you said, it feels like something that would be in this world. It didn't feel like she was trying way too hard to like
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
up gangster lingo. Like it sounds like something somebody on the streets would say, or like
Yep.
something, you know, something somebody would say like when we were in high school or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Exactly.
so, you know, it didn't sound too far off from what we would expect in real life. So I really appreciated that. And you can tell that she put a lot of thought into
Yeah.
how these people speak, and kind of how they're going to like act, and just kind of the words that they are going to be inclined to use.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, Fonda Lee, I put here that Fonda Lee is not afraid to kill and mutilate her characters,
Yeah.
like like Lon and Make Aton, the guy that got his arms like
Yep.
amputated.
Yep. Yep.
I definitely didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Me either.
Like yeah, when he came, like I forget how exactly he came into the scene, but
Well, so Lot or Hilo was in the Twice Lucky or something like that, right? And then one of his fingers came up. Is like, Hilo, you got to come here right now. And then they went downstairs, and that's where he found him. It didn't say how he got in
oh
there. It didn't say like, you know, there was no priorness to that. Hilo just, you know,
yeah,
goes down and then sees him laying there with his freaking arms cut off and cauterized, dude. It's nuts.
yeah, dude, and it's that, like that wasn't really a character that I was following very closely,
Me neither.
but
Yeah.
still, he was in the main group because
Yep.
he's Hilo's girlfriend's brother.
Yep.
And so when that happened, I was like, oh shit. Like I literally, I had this moment of like, first of all, I had to rewind and made sure that I understood that his arms were amputated, like his arms were gone.
Cut off at the shoulder.
But also I was like, dude, what is he gonna do?
Yeah.
And you know, I think it speaks to Fonda Lee's writing that like this wasn't a character that I cared a lot about. It wasn't a character that I thought a lot about. Yet when that happened, I had like this overwhelming sense of like, oh my God, I want to know what happens to him. Like, I want to know more. Like what, like how is he going to how is he going to operate with his arms gone? Like, this is nuts. And so, yeah, I love that, you know, I love that she's not afraid to off certain characters. We see quite a few people die in this book. And, you know, I think when an author uses that well, it can add a lot to the story. Like authors like, you know, Scott Lynch and The Gentleman Bastards, like he's not afraid to kill his characters. And it's always a shock when that happens. And this felt very similar to that. Obviously, like I favor The Lies of Locke Lamora a little more, but this had the same kind of feel when the death happens with Lon, or when the arms get chopped off. It you know, it's very much that shock to your system reading the story.
Yep. So I need to clarify something really quick, because I got confused when we were talking about the guy with his arms cut off. Is because I didn't catch this, if it's true. Is he the brother of Make Wen?
Yeah.
Okay, so does she have three? Or because she has two brothers, right?
Her brothers are Aton and what's the other guy's name?
Okay. See, now that makes more sense. I got confused for some reason in my head when I was reading. I didn't think that's who it was. Maybe I just missed the part where they said that or whatever else, or I just missed the name Aton.
Right.
But okay, so now clarified. We're good.
Yeah. So now one of her brothers is like debilitatingly maimed, and the other one is the Horn.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
What did you think of the narrator?
I fucking loved the narrator, dude.
Oh, really?
I did. I thought that he did the voices so well. Like in my head, like I would maybe not up there with Nick Podell, but like reading The Land again now, like Nick Podell does so good in The Land. Like it's the best, by far the best narration of a book I've ever read in my life. Like,
oh wow,
better than Kingkiller and Kingkiller. Yeah, absolutely. Like and the reason why I say that is because there's so much more expression, I feel like, in The Land, because it's a very like modern, you know, he's always joking and fucking with people, and you can just hear all these nuances in his voice. But I really like the way that whoever the narrator was, I don't know his name.
Andrew Kishino.
The way that the different voices were so much like what I would have thought them to sound like. Like Hilo's voice was like, even like if I were to read it on paper and not listen to the audiobook, like that's exactly how I would have found Hilo to sound. Like that's the way that my brain would have told me, like, this is how Hilo sounds. This is Lon, you know, this is when, but not. So yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with the narrator of this book.
Right on. Yeah, I thought he was very good as well. I definitely, for me, I probably wouldn't put him up with Nick Podell, but he did match the tone of the book very well, I thought. I think it was like a perfect reading of this book.
For sure.
Oh, and also that was another thing. I'm going to step back for a second. When I was talking about Oathbreaker earlier, dude, the narrator for that book is insane.
Yeah.
Like it's so crazy. There's this one character that talks with like a distorted voice because he's like a magical character. And so he has like this weird distortion to his voice. And the narrator does the voice and then uses software to go back and like distort the voice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
he does stuff like that, and it's really, really cool.
That is cool.
All right, let's talk about the storytelling real quick. We have third person POV. I can't remember if it's limited third person or omniscient third person. I can't remember if each chapter follows a specific character in third person, but you can also hear the other people's thoughts.
Yeah,
I don't remember, honestly.
I don't know either, but that's what I would lean towards when you just said that. Like, it follows a person and you can hear other people's thoughts. That kind of makes sense. More so than just yeah.
I don't know if I'm in the minority here, because some people who have done reviews for this book did not find the characters themselves the most interesting part of this book.
Yeah.
But I thought that this book was very character centered as opposed to being plot centered.
Yeah.
Because everything that's going on with the plot just feels very background to the characters themselves. It kind of feels like this basic plot, like there's a feud between these two clans and they got to figure it out.
Yep.
And that's basically it. Obviously there's more than that, but that's really what the story amounts to, is these two clans are opposing forces and they're going to war. And so I thought that the characters came through a lot more than the plot itself did. And also the book was very world building centric in a way too. I think there was a lot of world building in this book, a lot of like telling us the history of KCON and the history of like the gods of KCON, and and just like how the Jade industry works and how the outside world views KCON, and so I think the two things that stood out for me the most in this book was character building and world building.
Yeah.
I would definitely classify this as alternative fantasy or urban fantasy, somewhere in there.
Yep.
It didn't have like a ton of fantasy elements besides the Jade. It's probably somewhere in that subgenre. What did you think of the Green Bones themselves? We're going into world building. Okay. What did you think of the Green Bones and kind of the clans themselves?
The way that kind of the hierarchy works. I thought so. I was very, very taken in and interested in the setup of these clans and how everything works. So like, I mean, so they've got what's the name of the academy? The Call something Academy, right? It's
called Doucheron Academy.
Yeah, Doucheron, exactly. And so this is a school that people of the not of the family, but just people can go to, or kids that are kind of gifted can go to, and they spend 8 years at the school, 8 years learning to use Jade, to control themselves, to not overdo it, this, that, and the other. 8 years. And then of course when they get out, they're a finger, and so that the finger's like the lowest in the clan. The finger, like, reports to the Green Bones report to the Horn, yada yada yada. So the fingers get like,
real quick, the finger reports to the fist, who reports to the Horn.
Okay, yeah. My bad. Fist. Well, aren't Fist and so Green Bone's just Jade user. My bad. That's my bad.
Yeah, Green Bone is like the overall Jade user.
Yeah, I was mixing up Green Bone and Fist. So yeah, they report to the Fist, and then goes up to the Horn, and then of course the Pillar, who's on top of that. So it was very, very interesting to see how that all lined up, and the amount of time that it takes to get close to using Jade, right? Like that was pretty impressive to me. And then in general, like, you said, Green Bone, being a Green Bone is using Jade. Like that's, that's what defines a Green Bone. And so that was also super cool to learn more, about the way that it worked, and the way that you had to use it, and the different types of, I guess I want to say magics, but that's not what they call it. Like there's like disciplines, the different disciplines of Jade, and stuff like that. So it was cool. was really cool, man. I thoroughly enjoyed the way that they set up the, I'm gonna say magic system because that's kind of what it is.
That's fair.
And I would, yep, and I would put green bones in there. You know, it's all the magic, and so I would say that that was a genius way to set it up. And yeah, and like I said, when I first got into the book though, like I was so confused, like I was so lost for a long time, like maybe for like 2 hours, didn't know what was going on, didn't know what Jade was and whatnot. And then once I start a little bit further, it was explained. So it was a little confusing at first, but once you get to know it, it's very
you know, it definitely drops you into the world and doesn't really explain a whole lot. Kind of that beginning scene where Barrow and his friend are stealing the jade off the guy that fell asleep.
Yep.
And you kind of get a small taste of what jade feels like and the kind of things that you can do with it.
Yeah.
But it definitely, you know, it definitely leaves a lot to be desired, as far as like answering some of your main questions. And for a long time, when I was reading it the first time, I was super confused on like, you know, they never really explained like what a weatherman is or like what a lantern man is.
Yep.
I had an idea of what the horn is just because it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But like even the pillar, I was like, what does the pillar do? And then it kind of gets explained that they're like the head of the clan.
Yep.
But I would say almost all the way through my first reread, I really didn't understand, like, especially what a lantern man was. I was like, what is a lantern man? And then weatherman, I was like, what does a weatherman do? And so I had to go to Twitter and I was like, can somebody explain these things? And so then they explained like the lantern man is just like a patron of the clan. They
pays tribute. They pay tribute, and in turn they get protection from the clan. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then the weatherman was basically the
bookkeeper.
They handle the bookkeeper. They handle the business aspect of it. They read the clouds, which basically means like they kind of predict what the other clans are gonna do and like what kind of moves they're gonna make. And so it took a while to figure all that out. But eventually it kind of works its way out.
Yep.
You know, we have the two clans, No Peak and the Mountain Clan.
Yep.
I'm interested to see if we get to see any more clans in the second book. I hope they bring in more and more because there's got to be more than just these two.
For sure. Well, I think they talk about like other families. I don't think they say clans, but I have a feeling, you know, those families, you know, they have access to Jade and that, so the potential for a clan is there. But you're right, they haven't spoken about any other clans.
Yeah. And we're in the city of John Loon, and so it might just be that these are the only two clans in John Loon.
Yeah.
And outside of that, there are more. And so I'm really hoping that Jade War kind of opens up the world and lets us see a little bit more of what's outside John Loon.
For sure.
What did you think? Did you pick up on the differences of how No Peak wants to operate and how the Mountain Clan wants to operate?
I
like what the Mountain Clan was trying to accomplish.
Yep. No, I get what you're saying. I'm not sure if so in my head, like, you know, you have No Peak, right? And I think that I would call No Peak the good clan, you know, and then I would call the Mountain the bad clan, but that's just the very kind of bottom of the line basis, right? Because I think that you know, Mod or whatever her name is, the pillar of the Mountain Clan, is very much more of a business, money, power. You know, that's the way I would describe her, and I would describe No Peak as like power, people and respect, or something like that. So that's how I would probably say it. Like No Peaks, cares about their people a lot more. They don't really want to hurt people. They want to stay in business and they want to do good for the community and still make money and this and that. And the Mountain Tribe, in my opinion, from what I kind of read and deduced, is like they'll care for their people, but the only reason why is so they can make more money.
Right.
It's just, or more Jade or more power to grow. And they wanted to overtake, all of John Loon. Like they want to be the clan so they can control all of it, everything. Whereas I would say No Peak probably would want that, but they're just content with like they're okay with what they're doing, like it doesn't have to go crazy. Like they're okay with how they're doing it and the business is good and they're caring for people and yada yada. So that's kind of a weird way to describe it, but that would be my description.
No, I think that's good. I think the Mountain Clan was also it all kind of centers around SN1, right? Like this shine.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
And so, the No Peak clan is they have an understanding that there is a time and a place to use shine in certain situations.
Yep.
Like in Andon's case, they wanted him to use shine.
Yeah, but and very controlled.
Yeah, very controlled. But the Mountain Clan wanted to export shine and to all of KCON and outside so that everybody could be a Jade user, and then they could start selling their massive storehouses of
Jade. Yeah. Yep.
And so I thought that was kind of an interesting like kind of thing to focus on, like this whole like world, like it's really just like the island of KCON, but this whole world is so focused on basically a drug, whether it's Jade or shine. They're both kind of forms of drugs. And they're each trying to do different things with them, but that's really the main thing that gets you more power, is having more Jade,
for sure.
And so it was kind of cool to see like this one commodity that everybody wants, and right now it's like in a controlled way, like it's right now it's being evenly distributed, but then the Mountain Clan comes in and they want all of it and they want to sell it.
SN1, so everybody can have a piece.
Yeah, and like No Peak wants to keep it to just the Kekanese people, just the people who are trained and know how to use
and they're properly. Born, they're born with the genes to actually use Jade, versus the people in whatever that other place is. Like they don't have the genes for it, but when they take SN1, they can actually use it, right? Is that how it works? I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah, Shine, that was the other thing that was interesting too, is Shine does a couple things. So it allows a non-green bone to use Jade, but it also, if you are a Jade user, like in Lon's case, when he grabbed like way too much Jade, and he was wearing way too much Jade, and it like essentially like overdosed him in a way, like it was going way above what his tolerance could handle. And so taking the shine made his tolerance bigger. To allow for that Jade. And so it's interesting to see how it's used and how it's controlled.
Yep, I agree.
All right, let's go probably into the main thing here, is the magic system. We have Jade, that is a mineral that is mined from the mountain. And it gives its wearer magical properties in several attributes. Those attributes are strength, steel, perception, deflection, lightness, and channeling. And I don't think I even know if it was fully explained what every single one of those does, but I think.
Well, actually, I would say yes. Steel is like, you can make your skin stronger, right? You can still out your skin. Perception.
That's the one I was curious about.
Yeah, perception is there's instances where flare perception, and then they can hear like somebody's heartbeat across the room and the way that their emotions are. Deflection is the one that I would be most confused about, because it's like, they throw their arm out and they throw this deflection and it knocks over a bunch of crap and pushes people over. But I'm still like, deflection is like deflecting something. So what are you deflecting? I'm like confused about that.
The way I understood it is it's like a redirection of something. Like we see Andon, Lon throws a knife at him,
and then
he's able to pull the knife around himself and throw it back. So it's just like a rerouting of things that are thrown at you, or coming towards you.
Yeah, there were times though where like somebody would throw a deflection with, just like, it was like just the force push from Star Wars. Like there's nothing there, and they would just throw it. So then I'm like, well, they didn't send anything. There's no energy coming towards them. They just pushed it out. So I think, because I agree, because that's what I would think deflection would be, like redirecting or deflecting energy back to where it came from and whatnot. So anyways, it's just like, it's like you said, deflecting, or like there's some energy they can throw out, knock some stuff over, knock people over, yada, yada. And then lightness is like quick on your feet. You can light, quick, haste, fast. And then channeling is by far my most favorite one.
Channeling was cool.
Hands down, man. I don't even know how to explain it, but like, there's, for instance, the scene with Andon, at the end when, they trick a Gaunt Ash, and he grabs the Jade off of Hilo, and Hilo's down and whatnot, and he channels, and he's like, the way that he describes it is so visceral, man. He's like, perception, he could like feel their heartbeats, and he's like, I needed an outlet for all this Jade, and he channeled into them and stopped their hearts. Like 3 people stopped their hearts, and I was like, dude, that is freaking cool. That is so cool.
And he was saying that he could, like, through that channel, he could feel Gaunt die. Like he could, he felt him like dying. And so it like completely, even though you're channeling on somebody else, you're like opening yourself up in a way where like you're feeling everything that's happening. I thought that was pretty crazy.
I agree.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but there's a ton of training necessary for those who want to use Jade, right? And it's kind of interesting because there's so many requirements for Jade, or not like so many, but like you have to be Kekanese, you have to have the correct bloodline, and there are people called Stone Eyes, which are people that I don't know.
So I would say, so the Stone Eyes, I would describe it as, a Kekanese person with a genetic mutation, basically, that like makes it so Jade does not affect them. They can't interact with it, but it also doesn't affect them. So they can be around it, they can touch it, they can feel it. It doesn't mess with them.
That's right. Right. Yeah. And so, you have your Stone Eyes that are Kekanese, but they can't use it. But then, so not only does somebody need the right blood with the absence of a genetic disorder, but also, like you said, they need 8 years of training to even be able to handle the smallest amount of Jade.
At the end of the 8 years, they get like, I think Andon graduated with 4 little tiny stones on his wrist, and that's like top of the class. I think most times the training bands have 2, which is like nothing compared to the Green Bones.
Right. Yeah. And so, in this world, like I said, not only do you have to have the right blood, but you have to have, like, you can't just buy Jade because you have this in your blood. Like you have to be trained in an official way to even be able to use a little bit of it. And so it's kind of interesting to see these requirements, and I think it's good that Fonda Lee wrote it that way. Otherwise, everyone in this area would be running around with Jade, and everyone would be super powerful.
For sure.
So, when you see a Green Bone, that they have like accomplished a lot to be able to have the Jade that they have. And if you see somebody wearing a lot of it, that they like had to kill other people for it.
For sure. And the fact that they're handling it, that their Jade tolerance is huge and they've been doing it for a while. Like,
right. Did it say if I'm trying to remember, did it say if Green Bones had to only get their jade from a fallen enemy, or if can they buy it?
No, so I think I remember there was a scene. So I think the main way is through, right of claim or whatever they call it, or death. But I think that the clan, the clan will give out Jade obviously to their green bones and stuff. But I think it comes
Yeah.
to a point where like, you give somebody Jade and then that's too much, so you take some back. So it's like not like you could just like pass Jade out because you never know
Right.
how they'll react. So I would think, and yeah, I don't know if they actually literally explain that, but that's the way that I feel it should work or would work
Yeah.
anyways.
That makes sense. Yeah. Um, what were some of the drawbacks to using Jade?
So Jade in this book is very much similar to a drug. It is very much there's instances where like, Andon touches Jade and they describe this visceral euphoria and just this rush of power and so much energy and whatnot. And then the Jade goes away and they're like, what is my life? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. Like, I just want to die, like want to curl up. And so I think with that, there, it's just related to like heroin or something, right? Like you get wrapped up in it and then all of a sudden you stop and it's like the end of the world because you're going through withdrawals and whatnot. Um, and so, but with the withdrawals, and actually, maybe you can clarify this for me. So the withdrawals suck, and there's a couple of times where like Lon like takes his Jade off and he talks about feeling dull and kind of just weird and whatnot. And then there's other times where like Andon, after Andon used all that Jade, he was like lost himself. Like it was like he was lost. He didn't know who he was. Like he was terrified. So I think the amount that you use at a time will affect that. But then there's also this thing called the itches. And I
Yeah.
can't remember if the itches come from using like too much Jade or just withdrawals. Do you know?
Yeah, so they're the other end of the
Okay.
spectrum from what
Okay.
I understand. Like
Yeah.
if Lon if Lon had kept going wearing that jade,
Without SN1,
um,
he would have got the itches.
right.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
I think that's what it is. I think it can also happen because Andon's mother was getting the itches,
Oh yeah, that's what I was
but
gonna say. Yeah.
she had she had an impure bloodline, so she couldn't really handle Jade all that well anyway.
Yeah.
And so probably any amount of Jade for her is like way too
Too much.
much.
Yeah. Because even Andon's
Yeah.
sensitive too. And I just want to say really quick on the itches, the scene where Andon's talking about his mother. This is how bad this
Mm,
gets. Andon is like looking for his mom. He finds his mom in the bathtub with a cheese grater, and she had completely chore her arms up, like into ground beef, like destroyed,
yeah.
veins, everything bad. And he I was like, Mom, what are you doing? And she's like, It's okay, honey, go back to bed. I couldn't sleep because I was so itchy. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, what? Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. But then
Isn't
it just
that
goes to
nuts?
show like how powerful the Jade can be on both sides, bad and good.
Right. Right. Um, yeah, but I definitely hope that there is, some more magic in the second book. There wasn't as much as I would have liked in this book.
Yeah.
I definitely want to see it kind of explored a little bit more and all the different
Yeah.
things that you can do with it.
Yep. Yep.
So hopefully we see that expanded in the next one.
Yep. I totally agree.
Who were some of your favorite characters?
Hilo was probably my favorite character. Second would be
Oh,
Lon.
really?
Yeah, and then third would be Andon. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
I loved Hilo's character. I don't know what it is about I don't want to say trope because I don't know what category the trope would fall into, really, but I just really enjoy kind of the hot-headedness, the very like, like it's talked about, Lon's the pillar, right? And Hilo's the horn before Lon dies. And Hilo is made to be a horn, right? Like he's on the streets, can be vicious, but also kind of like, somewhat kind to like his stuff. But if you fuck with him, it's game over, right? You know what I mean? Like it's game over. And so I really liked that side of him. I also really thought it was cool that they portrayed the soft side to him and Wen.
Yeah.
Like he, he had this person that he loved and he was very kind to, and and whatnot. The way that he treats his family, I thought was really cool. Not that like Lon or anybody else doesn't, but I was just kind of like drawn to Hilo in a way that I was more so than the other characters.
Yeah. Yeah, in that first chapter, I was like, man, I'm gonna love Hilo. This is awesome when he stops Barrow and then he takes Barrow before Lon. And then he had like he went over to Wen's place and we see him interact with Wen. And also during that time I was like, whoa, this is like a graphic sex scene.
I know. I had the same thought, man. It was like super graphic. Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I was not expecting that.
Yep, I didn't either.
But yeah, after that, I just really, really started to hate Hilo. And I think Fonda Lee wrote him really well. I don't think this isn't saying anything about her writing. I just think him as a character, I just hated him. And I think that he was so. I have this great quote by Ait Mata. I think it's Ait Mata who says this. And she says, your brother is a dangerous, foolish man-child driven by pride and bloodlust. He would fight to the last man on principle alone.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I think Hilo does have a lot of like somewhat like redeeming qualities. And I hope that he like matures over the next couple books and becomes more like Lon, like more like a respectable pillar. But I think there's a reason why, when Hilo became pillar, nobody in the clan really would accept it. Like even when they were at Lon's funeral, there was several people who were like, wait, he's pillar? What the hell? And like they're like, how could Hilo be pillar? Because he's so like, I don't know. He's just so hot-headed and like doesn't think about what he does. Like even when Andon is taken by the Mountain Clan, Lon is like terrified that Hilo's gonna do something to fuck it all up.
For sure. Yeah.
Lon is like being super patient. He's like, okay, we're just going to wait for them to release Andon. But Hilo's got all his guys and he's like surrounding the place.
20 green bones.
And like, while that's very cool, I'm just like, oh my God, like, come on, play it cool. And then like the whole time later when they're like in those meetings with Ait Mata, when him and Shay are like with the politicians, they're in those meetings. And he just like completely fucks up Shay's plan. Like she had a plan like on day 2 we're gonna do this, on day 3 we're gonna do this, on day 4 we're gonna play our trump card, and then on day 1 he plays the trump card and it didn't work the way that it was supposed to because they didn't do all this other stuff first. And I'm just like, God damn it, Hilo. Like,
I know.
Come on.
That's I would say that right there is the reason why I think I enjoyed his character so much. Because he went against, it's hot-headed. He's very quick to anger, this and that and the other. And so he would play it out in ways where you're just praying, you're hoping, like, no, like, for instance, like when they're in the room, you're just like, don't just say what she wants you to say. Like, listen to the weatherman, don't fuck with it. And then he comes out and he's like, you motherfuckers, you're lying, you're a thief, you're this. And I'm like, dude, oh my God. I'm like, it's going to end bad. It's going to end bad. But how cool is that, dude? Like, holy crap.
Right. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I was super mixed on his character, but I'm really excited to see where he goes in
me too.
in Jade War, the next book, because Lon is gone. So now Hilo has to step up and he has to become the pillar. And he has to do it well, otherwise the clan will completely disintegrate.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, yeah, I really liked Lon. He was probably my favorite character. He's very like stoic and mature, and he handles things very like carefully and strategically. And he just seemed like I don't know, like none of these people besides Hilo maybe really seemed like gangsters, but Lon, if Lon had a little bit more evil to him or a little bit more like morally gray to him, he probably would have felt like the Marcone of this story of like the Dresden Files Marcone. Because he was just like the very classic, like, you know, he's a gangster, but he's a businessman, you know?
Yeah, and a respectable one at that, you know, very respectable, right. but at the same time, business is business, you know?
Right, for sure. So yeah, I really liked him. And I really liked how this is more of a story thing than a Lon's character thing, but I really liked how no one actually knows how Lon died.
Yeah.
You know, Barrow thinks that he kills him. Hilo thinks that the Mountain Clan is responsible. Andon is the closest in what he assumes to have happened, but he's still not entirely right. Like it was the Shine, but like Lon basically just decided to commit suicide. Like he jumped into the water thinking that it was going to help him. He was feeling like really hot or something, and so like he went to go like into the water. But he was so like messed up that he just like drowned in there. And so it's really interesting. I like it when in certain books when none of the characters really have it right, like none of them really understand the situation. And so I think that's really cool.
There's a lot of potential that can build there for the future, you know, for the next book and whatnot. Just on that fact that people don't know what actually happened.
Definitely.
Which is cool.
Definitely. What did you think about Shay?
So Shay, I would probably say that Shay was the most interesting character to read and to listen to here, because she was like, you know, you have the Call family. It's very like, you know, you want to think like Al Capone, like that, you know, very close rooted, you know, family's everything, family, right? And then you have, you know, daughter that's of the Call family, the bloodline, that's like, I don't want to do this. Like I'm gonna go away. And you know, she leaves to Esponia or something, whatever the place is called. Something like España. Yeah, exactly. And so she goes and she starts working and goes to school and gets her business, you know, license, or what, not business license, but like a degree and whatnot.
Yeah, she studies business.
Yep. And so I thought it was cool that she, you know, against everybody's thoughts, she's like, no, I don't want to. Like, I'm gonna go do this and whatnot. And then of course she comes back, and watching her battle from no Jade and against what's going on back to wearing Jade was so cool. It was so cool to watch that entire progression. So I would say that she intrigued me more so than most other characters did. Put it that way.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it was cool watching her struggle, like, you know, before she gets her Jade, she's you know, remember when she's walking back to her apartment and that guy that lived next door to her, he was walking like down the street from her, but she didn't know it was him. And so she like grabbed a knife out of her pocket.
Yeah, Talon knife. Yep.
And but she's like, I don't have any Jade. Like I can protect myself, but I'm not as strong as I would be if I had Jade. And so it's kind of like those situations kept coming, and you know, she gets there and she doesn't want anything to do with the family, but then Lon, or she wants to be a part of the family, but she doesn't want to be a part of like the clan, right? And so Lon asks her to start checking out these ledgers, like the Jade ledgers.
Yep.
And so she goes over there and she's like, I'm doing only this one thing. I'm just doing this one thing for you guys. And he's like, okay, thank you. And she goes and does that, gets it all done, brings it back. And then after she finishes that, Lon is kind of like, okay, thank you. And, you know, he's appreciative, but then he just goes on his way with Hilo.
Yeah.
And she's kind of standing there, and it talks about how she kind of has this weird feeling like she knew that was going to be it for her. She knew that was the only thing that she was doing for them, but she felt like in her mind, and I can understand this, in her mind, she was probably like, oh wait, that's right, I'm not doing anything after this. Like she was waiting for her like next assignment probably. And then she realized she's like, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. And so it's kind of this weird back and forth of like, do I want to be part of clan politics or do I want to not be? And so anyway, it was super cool seeing that go back and forth. And then once Lon dies and she gets her Jade, it was like such a cool moment.
Yes.
What else do I want to say about Shay? Because she was one of my favorite characters for sure. I think that she's like super smart, and she is like the perfect she is like the but she's like the perfect foil to Hilo, because Hilo like wants to act decisively and violently, and she's a little bit more like Lon, where she wants to like plan things out and be more careful. And we see Hilo subvert that when they're doing their politics thing in that meeting. And so I'm interested to see if there's going to be a huge like butting of heads with them. And to see how they overcome that, because she's going to have to give in a little bit to Hilo, and he's going to have to give in to her. And I think as he matures, her job as weatherman will become a little bit easier, and they'll be able to rely on each other, without Hilo just kind of going off and doing his own thing.
For sure.
And so I'm interested to see how Shay deals with that, and kind of how she grows in the weatherman role. She already knows how to be a weatherman, which is really cool, because when like Hilo doesn't know how to be a pillar, but Shay knows how to be a weatherman.
For sure.
And so like when she first gets the position, she's interviewing, what's the guy's name? There's some guy that she's interviewing for a certain position, and then one of the other guys was Woon Poppy Dunwa, which is a hilarious name. I was like, what is this name? But it is super funny, super fun to say. But yeah, she's interviewing those two, and she's asking them both like, who would you get for this role? And they say the other person. And so she made it seem like she was, looking for their advice, which made, their respectability of her go up in their heads. I don't know if that's the right word, but
no, I think it works.
And so, it's interesting how she knows how to play things like right off the bat. Like this is what she knows how to do. And so it's super cool whenever she's in her element. Andon, did you like Andon?
I did like Andon. I thought that I thought it was almost crucial to throw in Andon's character in the story. And I say that because, you have the clan, right? And you have all their clan business, and that's the huge, massive part of the story is clan business, clan fights, whatnot. But I thought it was really key, and what made me a lot more interested in the story was Andon, because Andon was basically an orphan, right? His mom had killed herself because she had the itches so bad. That's the lady that with the cheese grater. I mean, bad news. And like, it was Lon that took him in, right? It was Lon that like, because her mom was friends with somebody or whatnot, and Lon came and took him in, and like welcomed him into the family, right? When he was little, really little boy.
Right.
And then he decides to go to the douche or whatever the called Doucheron Academy,
Yeah.
to train for the 8 years. And so it was cool to have two sides of the story. You have the clan stuff and you're focused on that, but then you can also jump to Andon, who is like not in the clan yet, and so you can kind of see this almost outward perspective of the way that like he sees Hilo and Lon, and the way that he thinks about the mountain and all this stuff on the outside. So I think it was, to me, it was a very important part of the story, and I really enjoyed Andon. I loved, man, there's so many good parts about him. Like I called you. The reason why I called you the other day, Spencer, and I told you this, is because of that scene with Andon and Hilo. That was like one of the best, like mind blowing because I didn't see it coming. Like I was like, I could not have thought that in a million years that would have happened. So yeah, I've enjoyed his character a lot, and I think that he compliments everybody well. And even what happens at the very end when he denies his Jade and says like, I don't want to be like you, or I don't want to be like them. I also thought was really powerful too, because like he's got such a history with it and stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed Andon a ton. Yeah.
You said that fantastically. I especially like how you mentioned a very good word. You said that he is critical to the story. It was critical to put this kind of character in there, and that's such a good take. He is crucial to this, because otherwise you're just getting the clan stuff and you're not getting anything outside that. And this is a kid who is just starting to come out of the academy, and he is the person that teaches us how Jade is used when you first get it. And so otherwise we would just see these people with Jade and think like,
they're like ultimate Jade users.
Like it's easy to just put Jade on and you're super powerful. But with Andon, we see how someone like starts that journey, how someone starts getting Jade and what it does to them, and how powerful it is when you first use it. And also it helps us see a very different side of the brothers and Shay, because we get Andon's viewpoint on Lon, we get Andon's viewpoint on Hilo and Shay, and otherwise we would just be seeing those characters, and we would be kind of biased, I guess. Like we would just see them for what Lon believes he is, or what Lon believes Hilo is. But Andon is kind of outside that, like you said. And, we get his viewpoint of Lon when he finds out about the shine. And Andon is basically telling the reader, like, no, this is really, 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 really bad. Like, because if we had only gotten Lon's perspective of that, we would think like
anything.
Like, okay, he just needs this to like supplement himself and he'll be fine. But with Andon's perspective, we're like, okay, like we see how much this can really fuck things up. So yeah, that's very, very good take on Andon. When I really liked when. I think another to a less degree than Andon, but also another really good role to have in the book is one of a Stone Eye, who cannot use Jade. And so we see her do things like she was like delivering Jade,
smuggling it. Smuggling it. Because there was no Jade or given off by her. Because the people, normal people, like, if they come in contact with Jade, like it's like they'll like, I mean, it's like it's anybody can see it, or they'd go crazy or whatever else. And so the Stone Eyes can like just like touch Jade and whatnot and just be totally normal. And so that's why they call that the White Rat or something. That's what that was her role, and that was the White Rat, which is somebody who can Stone Eye that could basically infiltrate some somewhere else and do that stuff. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that popped in my head really fast.
No, that's good. Yeah. She she delivers stuff for for Shay, and she also kind of has this motivation, which is really interesting because I'm so divided on it. She, Hilo wants her to just like be safe and like, live,
keep her locked up in the house, like don't go anywhere, don't do anything. Yeah.
And like live safely and stay here. And I part of me understands that. I'm like, okay, like Hilo loves this woman. He doesn't want to put her in danger. Like he doesn't want this life for her. He doesn't want this like green bone life. And she's literally like the only thing he really cares about in his life. Like he loves his family and stuff, but when is really like the only thing that matters to him. And so, he in his mind, he's kind of like, I absolutely cannot lose her and I need to keep her safe.
Yep.
And so he doesn't want her involved in the business. But then she goes behind his back and talks to Shay, and she's like, I want to be in the business. And so then Shay by proxy goes behind Hilo's back, and they set up this this kind of position for her, the white rat. And I'm really interested to see how that plays out, because Hilo will find out and he will not be happy.
No, he'll go nuts, man. He'll go insane.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm super excited to see what happens with her, but I think she's just a good character overall. She really balances out Hilo in the same way that Shay kind of balances out Hilo. She's like this very like soft spoken person. She's like, just his like I don't know what else to call it besides like kind of his safe space. Like when he's with her, he can like let down all of the
I think
like,
that's
guards and stuff.
That's a great way to describe when for Hilo. That's a wonderful way to do it, because that's what it is. She is that exactly.
Yeah. And I think she's just like kind of the perfect wife for him in this book. And I really, really, really hope that Fonda Lee doesn't kill her off.
Yeah, no kidding. I agree. I want to see more of her,
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, we get enough, but I would like to see how it plays out, when she goes overseas or whatever, and that whole thing. So yeah, that's what you just said.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And then we have the Make brothers. And they were pretty cool. I didn't really feel one way or the other about them, other than I really did like the flashback where Hilo fought them at school.
Oh yes,
and
yes.
They like beat the hell out of each other, and then they're all just kind of standing. They start laughing.
Yes.
And they just like put their arms, they just walk away, and then they're like best friends ever since.
So cool.
I'm like, I love that.
Yeah, I did too. That was by far my favorite interaction between them, for sure.
What did you think of Barrow?
Man, fuck Barrow.
Right?
That's what I think of Barrow. Fuck Barrow.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. His character, and again, I would say is very, very important. Right? Like a very crucial character to have in here.
Is he?
Well, okay. So here, let me try and explain. So I think what I'm trying to say here, maybe not crucial would be the word, but like, you have the scene where Hilo dies, right? And with Barrow, you have this like almost outside perspective, and he's a dumbass. Like I think that Fonda Lee like wants us to know that he's a super dumb person. Like he doesn't know what's going on. He thinks he's bad shit. Like he thinks he's fucking cool, yada, 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 and whatnot. But I think it's cool. I should say not crucial. Cool to see from his perspective of, first of all, what happened to Lon, right? Because he kind of saw that. And then all the reaction, or not that the reactions that he had, according to that, because he thought he killed him. Like he's like, oh, I shot him, yada, yada, yada. But he didn't. Like he didn't shoot him. Like Lon, Lon fucking died of something else, and he doesn't know. But then with that, you kind of see almost to this back, like you see I forget the guy's name, but when Barrow comes back to the gentleman and says like I killed the pillar and whatnot, and then you kind of see this almost, a couple of people that are kind of like, back of the room, like I forget. Do you know the guy's name that was there? Like the guy that
can't
hit him out.
the guy's name.
That's fine.
But it's like the underground criminal
stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like black market stuff and whatnot. And so he gets into that, and he goes underneath this thing and makes it to the water and whatnot. And then so go ahead.
I was just gonna say that is a good point, because otherwise we wouldn't have seen that side of the city.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly. And then because it's almost like, you get a little dip into the black market kind of, the stuff that the clan doesn't like, it's illegal to the clan. The clan wants to stop all that shit and whatnot. So that was cool. But man, I just fucking hated his character, dude.
Yeah,
I fucking hated it so much. Like I was like, fuck this dude. Just stop. That's all I wanted. I just wanted him to stop, but he didn't, and it's fine. And now he's got a fucking super big stash of SN1 from the thing and whatnot. So who knows what's gonna happen with that stuff? I have a feeling that he'll be maybe a minor player, or maybe a major one in the next book. We'll see. But
that's what I was gonna say, is that I wonder if he is gonna kick off something, because he already kind of kicked off Lon's death, even though he wasn't directly responsible. He was still like a part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I guess what I'm saying is I'm interested to see what other fuck ups he does that makes him responsible for bigger things happening in the story.
Sure. Yep.
And I hope he dies a horrible death.
Yeah, for real.
We see him at the end. He's digging up Lon's grave.
I know, he's trying to get to the Jade, exactly, and that's sketchy alone. That's scary business.
Yeah.
But we don't. All we see is that one scene, right, where he starts to do it, and then that's it, and it's over. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for real. I think it's so funny, because I don't know if this was on purpose by Fonda Lee, but there's so many other things happening that I often forget about Barrow. Even when I was making these notes, I was like, oh yeah, I got to put Barrow in here. And I just in general forget about him, which is kind of funny, because like you said, he thinks that he is so significant, and he thinks that he is a major player. But nobody really recognizes him as one. And even like me, the reader, forgets about him. So it's funny to see how like insignificant he really is.
For sure. For sure.
And he'll probably become more significant later books, but I thought that was kind of funny.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
We have Doru and the grandpa. I forget the grandpa's name, but the
fucking ask me about the grandpa, man. That dude pisses me off. That dude,
I know.
Like, he upset me so much, like throughout the book, like so much.
Dude, the grandpa is the torch of K-Con, who holds to the old ways of doing things. And he thinks that the new generation is like ruining the family. And so he's always like, trying to stick his nose into things. And there's Doru even says, it's near the beginning of the book, and this is a cool thing about Lon, is Lon makes some sort of plan, and then Doru goes to him and he's like, should we ask Kaljen or Kalsen, which is like, it's the title for like the lead, like the head leader. And Lon turns to him and he says, I am Kalsen. And is like, that's right, Doru, like you guys are out. And so and then Doru was like despicable. He had like, from what I understood, he had like child pornography in his his room.
So it was one of
Shade's friends, right?
Shade's friends, and she was like, I think she was 15 at the time, and there was all sorts of like terrible stuff, like with it was bad. It was child pornography. That's what it was. And she found it in his drawer, and there was like 15 pictures or something.
Yeah. And so Doru is just like this really horrible person, and like, but for whatever reason, the clan kept him around. It seemed like other people knew about this too, because multiple people called him like an old pervert and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's like everybody kind of knows about this, but you know, he's been weatherman for so long that they've needed him to stay there. They just haven't gotten
Yeah,
rid of him.
exactly. And I think the hard part is he's such a good weatherman. He did such a damn good job at his job, right? Like that it was
Yeah.
hard to dispute it until, of course, Hilo became this and they found out that he was doing all that stuff with the mountain and whatnot. Anyways, that's yeah.
Yeah, that was another crazy thing to find out that he was working with the mountain.
Yeah.
And then it also explains that he, before joining the Call family, before joining No Peak, he had affiliations with the Mountain Clan.
Oh, see, I never caught that. I never caught that. I didn't know that.
I only caught it on the second reread.
Okay.
I think it was when they were kind of introducing him as a character, or maybe shortly after that. Yeah. And before joining No Peak, he had some affiliation with the mountain.
Okay.
And the grandpa brought him on, I think, because he knew about the mountain's business movings and stuff like that.
For sure. Yeah.
And so, then Doru, when he does his, when he kind of betrays the clan, his end goal is to get them to like become one, for everybody to become part of the mountain. Yeah. And the grandpa is so old that Doru convinced him to like give him his jade. And why did the grandpa have any jade?
So I want to not dispute that, but I want to talk about that for just really quick. So sure. So that scene where where Hilo finds out that Doru escaped, right, and that the grandpa gave him. So the grandpa, let's preface this a little bit. The grandpa just hates Hilo. He does not like Hilo at all. He thinks that Hilo is going to ruin the clan. And so I think that, mind you, he's got dementia. He's like old, he's forgetting stuff. He's talking to his kids that are dead and yada yada. But I have a feeling that scene where he gives Doru the thing, because Doru is loyal to the Call Jen, who is the grandpa. Yeah. That's what he calls the grandpa, no matter what. That's the only person he's loyal to. So I think that Call Jen, like out of that moment, like really tries to like think of like, the betterment of the clan almost, I guess, like, because he thinks Hilo's going to ruin it and whatnot.
Right.
But then he, of course, everything gets fucked up and it gets all messed up and yada, yada, yada. So I don't know. That was like a major point to me about the grandpa, because I don't like the grandpa, but I see that his values are they're old, because he was the torch. Right. He was the main dude. He won the war and this and that. He killed so many people. So I can see how he would think that, like, I don't even know if that's the way to describe it, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think you're on the right track there. That's a good point. He thinks that he is doing the right thing. Like he believes that joining with the mountain is the best thing for the clan.
Yeah.
And so I guess my question would be, did he give Doru the jade because, like, partially because of that, but also partially because he's old and he has dementia, for sure, and he's able to get tricked?
Yeah, exactly. That's the best question right there. I agree.
Let's move into quotes real quick. I honestly, so I was kind of lukewarm on the prose of this book, especially just coming off of King Killer, that has some amazing quotable moments. Yes. I really only had a couple of these quotes initially, and then I went to Goodreads and pulled some more. But I really liked this one talking about Shay as she's coming into the city for the first time for the first time in the book. And it says, as the taxi crossed the Way Away Bridge, the steel and concrete skyline of the city came into view. Shay was struck by a sense of nostalgia so profound, she found it difficult to breathe. The humid air through the open window, the sound of her native language being spoken on the radio, even the terrible traffic. She swallowed close to tears. She had only the vaguest idea of what she was going to do in John Loon now, but she was undeniably home.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that's a pretty great quote. I think anyone who has spent time away from home or spent time, you know, in another state or another country for a time, even though you may not have fond memories of home, there's always a very specific feeling that comes with, you know, coming back. You know, last weekend, I went like 2 hours north up to my mom's house, and I spent the weekend at my mom's. And I haven't been back there in a very long time, probably since I think last Christmas or something. Yeah. And even though like I would never like want to move back there, there's this undeniable sense of like I know every street. Like I don't need to use, I don't even need to use my phone for like Google Maps or anything. Yep. Like I know where I'm going, and you know, I know, like I feel in some ways comfortable with that area. Like it feels like somewhere I grew up for so long, and it's so familiar. And so this quote really kind of hit me because that was so recent. And I was just like, yeah, that's a really good way to describe going back home.
Absolutely. Yes. No, I totally agree. I've got one here.
Yeah.
So this is the scene where I think it flashed, or maybe not flashes back, but Andy gets into it with a couple other boys from the Calduceron Academy. And I forget their names. One of them is important because his father dies towards the end, which is the guy that
Lote?
without. Yes, Lote, exactly, Lote. And so Andy's getting into it with Lote and whatnot, and they're about to throw down or fight, or they're arguing or whatever, and Hilo shows up, and he's kind of breaks it up in such a way where he's not very intrusive, and he does this and that, and he says to Andy, he's like, sometimes Andy, the people you think you can count on, they let you down in a bad way, and that's hard to take. But for the most part, you give a man something to live up to. You tell him he can be more than he is now, more than other people think more than other people think he'll ever be, and he'll try his God's damn best to make it true. And that was, dude, to me, like that's like Hilo in a nutshell, like in the way that he thinks, like about people and about the way that things should work. And so I thought that was a really cool quote to Andy, and I think that I think it hit Andy in such a way where he's like had a little bit more understanding of the way that he thought and the way that he, you know, perceived the way that things work. And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and that is a really good Hilo moment because you know, at his core, Hilo does believe in this family and the hierarchy of No Peak and how things should work, and leading people. He's really good at leading people to make them want to follow him and want to like give their lives to follow him. You know, Hilo's fists gladly die for him. Like they gladly, you know, go into battle for him. And so, you know, when he says this, he's trying to show Andy how you lead and how you can't just because if I remember correctly, Andy just wants to, like, he hears them talking trash and he like goes up to him and is like, you can't say that about them, and like kind of this thing. And Hilo says exactly this. He's like, man, if instead of like treating them in a bad way, if you give them a standard to live up to, if you give them a goal to reach, if you give them like a reason to follow you and a reason to do better and, you know, die for you, or not die for you, but if you give them a reason to fight for you, they will die for you. And this is when Hilo is, because I think something he says before this is, he tells Andy's like, someday you will be a fist and these people will be your fingers. And so he's like, you need, you know, he gently tells him like, you need to learn how to handle these people now.
Yes.
So that you can be a good leader as a fist.
For sure.
And I wouldn't be surprised if someday Andon was Horn.
Yep, I would agree.
I love this quote about Aitmata. Her straight gaze so coolly intense and enigmatic, it defied a viewer to guess if she was thinking about sex or murder or grocery shopping.
Yeah. Yep.
This is another one that I really liked that I wrote down right away. A man who wears the crown of a king cannot wear the jade of a warrior. Gold and jade never together.
Yeah.
And I know that this was being said to Lon, but I can't remember if it was his father or if it was the grandpa that was telling him. And I love this idea of separation of clan and state, because green bones are not meant to be rulers. Like, they are not meant to be like they're not meant to take political power like the people that Hilo and Shay were dealing with. They're not meant to be those people. They're meant to be protectors of the people, and they have a responsibility to take on. And you know, they have a responsibility to the people, and yeah, they're just not meant to seek lofty or greedy goals besides what they already do. Like, you know, they might be kind of greedy, and they might be, you know, they want to make money and stuff, but they're not meant to wear a king's crown. And so I really liked that distinction, because when I was first reading the book, I was thinking like, why don't they just take over? Like, why don't they just take over everything and rule the whole nation? But it's good to know that like these green bones, there is like a sense of tradition and a sense of responsibility and a higher purpose as far as like what they're meant to do. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, so what we mentioned one of them, but what were some of your favorite moments from this book? Did you have any other ones that really stuck out to you besides the battle, or you could talk about that one too?
No, that's fine. So the battle will probably be the big one. I think that whole scene was very well done. You know, it was very intricate, and it was not what I expected, which I thought was really cool. And then probably I've got two more, and the first one would be where basically Lon dies, but not just him dying, but it's the scene that takes place up until then. You know, Barrow, you know, they've got the Fuller or whatever it is, the
Fullerton machine gun.
Fullerton machine gun, exactly. And they've been training, they've been going out to shoot it for, you know, in the woods for a couple of weeks and whatnot. And the guy with what did they call that guy? The guy that like actually sent them to do it. Do you remember what they said? If not, it's okay. It
started with a C.
Okay, yeah, I can't remember.
Not Chaser.
The Cutter.
The Cutter, is that it? Yeah,
I think so.
Familiar.
Yeah, the Cutter. And so they sent him out to do this. So that was powerful. You know, not only that, but watching Lon's perspective when he is, you know, he accidentally took too much shine, right? Like he should have done a half dose because he hasn't taken it in 10 days or whatever else. And so that was cool seeing how that worked. And of course, super sad because he died in the end. And then one of my other favorite scenes is after Shay figures out that Lon had died, right? She gets picked up by one of the makes. You know, I forget which make it was, but he picks her up, and she's like, I have to stop at the bank. And he's like, well, but Hilo asked me to bring you straight home. And she's like, no, Hilo will understand. I have to stop at the bank. He's like, okay. So she stops at the bank. She goes into the bank. She gets into her safe deposit box, and there's her jade. And she takes all of it, puts it all on. She's like, I'm done. I'm done with this. I need to be with the family. I need to be with the clan. Like, I got to put this jade on. And so that was, you know, that was really cool, man. I was so happy that she did that. Like, I was so stoked. She finally got past, you know, the problems, and not even got past, but like realized that this is what needs to happen in order for the clan to survive, type thing.
Right.
So yeah, that's probably it. And of course the battle, I know we already talked about that, but that was nuts. And yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah. I really loved the scene where she gets her jade. I also really liked, kind of in that same vein, I really liked the funeral for Lon.
Oh, yep.
And kind of Hilo trying to talk to everybody and show that he is the new
Pillar, yeah.
pillar.
Yeah.
And kind of everyone's like response to that, and like how some people would come up and recognize him as the new pillar and like shake his hand, and then others like wouldn't come up at all.
Yeah. Well, I think the
Yeah.
way that he described it was like he said that there was a minimal amount of respect that was due, and there were half of the people paid that minimal amount. They're like, they didn't go any further than they should. Like, I just doing this so you don't kill me type thing, or so the clan's not mad at me and whatnot. And so that right there is a big tell on how, quite a few of the people feel about his position and what they think, is right or what should happen or whatever.
Right. Um, Going slightly off of that, I mean, away from that, I really liked when Shay finds out her apartment is being watched by Hilo,
Yep.
and her neighbor is a clan plant.
Yeah.
Because when I was reading that part at the beginning, I thought for sure this was going to be like a love interest for Shay.
Yeah.
I thought, they were like, he was going to be the one person outside of the clan business that she could like confide in and like be friends with, and then he turns out to be a plant. I was so pissed.
Yeah, no, I know. I totally agree. I enjoyed that a lot too, and I thought the same thing.
Let's see, Lon doing a training session with Andon, where we see this is really the first part for me where I really like could see what Jade could do. And I absolutely loved the deflection of a knife is coming towards you and you whip it around yourself and fling it back.
Yeah,
I thought that was super cool. Instead of just like pushing it back like straightforward, you have to like reroute it around you to keep its momentum. I thought that was super cool.
And then here's another good one, and this is between Hilo and Wen. So Hilo quickly, so Wen and Hilo had this big wedding planned out, right? They wanted the dress, the people, the drinks, and this and that and the other. And once Hilo found out that he had to meet Gaunt Ash and that he had to end this right now, he goes to Wen. He's like, we have to marry quickly, and we might still have that great wedding later on, but we have to do it now. And so they do it with, it was such a small ceremony. There was a couple people there and whatnot, and they did all this stuff. And so that to me too is also kind of cool, because like it shows you like how, because we know how much Wen means to Hilo, right? Like, I mean, she is so important to him, so important, but he has to do these things because he has to go into battle. Like this battle, this ending comes first no matter what, right? Like over the love interest, over the people, like whatever else, like this has to happen. So he had to call this stuff beforehand and do it. And so I thought that was kind of cool. And it was a cute, it was a nice little ceremony and whatnot. And Wen was like okay with it, and she got her dress and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I had super mixed feelings on it.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of like, if you think that you're gonna die, why would you like marry somebody in the case that they would then become a widow? Like, wouldn't that be twice as painful if they had this whole ceremony and then he died? But
okay.
Yeah, go
ahead. No, I was just gonna say, so I had the same exact thought, and I was like, and my first thought was like, I wonder if he's marrying so he could maybe have an heir. Like maybe have a kid, but like there was no indication that she was pregnant or anything else. But anyways, that was just I had that thought when I thought about that.
Yeah, and I think, I had that thought, but then it gets said that he's basically doing it so that legally she has a right to like his money, and that she can leave the clan if she wants to, and that she's taken care of.
Yep.
And so I was kind of like, okay, but how was she taking care of herself before they got married? You know, like she had some sort of income.
But she was doing fine. She had a nice apartment
yeah.
and this and that. And she even talked about that. She's like, I was comfortable with where I was at. You know, and
Right.
I think that's when she was talking to Shay or something. The first time that they actually like had a deep conversation, and she was saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I did have mixed feelings on it. Like, man, if you think you're gonna die, why would you build up all these expectations of like a marriage? You're like, we're gonna have the ceremony right now. It's like, what's that gonna matter in a few hours if you're dead? Like,
Yep.
but legally, I get it, so that he could leave her more money and stuff. But I think there definitely would have been another way for him to leave her money. So
yeah,
I don't know, it's kind of weird. I got one more that I really want to talk about. So when Hilo and Shay talk privately to the clan politician, and they're basically telling him that war is coming, like war is inevitable between these clans now, and everyone should expect to like board up their businesses and be very, very careful when they're outside because, you know, shots will be fired. And the politician is kind of like, wait, this isn't what we signed up for. Like, what do you mean there's going to be war? Don't have war. And and Hilo's kind of like, well, it's out of our control now. And I paraphrased this, but he says something like, it seems we've spent so long in peacetime that the Lantern Men have forgotten why they pay tribute. They pay tribute because we protect them in times of war. Well, we're at war now. It's time for the Lantern Men to show how devoted they really are to the clan. They always say so whenever they come asking for things. It's time for that to be challenged and really show if they're dedicated. Again, that's very paraphrased, but you know, I think Hilo is inferring that the Mountain Clan knows that the politician has been dedicated to No Peak, and if they take over, if the Mountain Clan takes over No Peak, they won't take kindly to this politician who's been helping them. Like, you know, they're not going to be like, oh, just come work for us. Like they know that he's dedicated to No Peak, and they're going to kill every No Peak person. And so he's kind of telling him like, man, like if you're thinking of, you know, just letting the war play out and kind of defecting and go over to the Mountain Clan, like that's not a good idea because they're going to kill you. And so I thought that was the moment where it was like, okay, like maybe Hilo is starting to like understand what the pillar does. And you know, I really like this idea of, you know, there's been so, like you said, there's been so much peacetime that these Lantern Men have kind of become complacent, and they expect there not to be crime violence. They expect to like live in peace and like not have the clans feuding, but that's not what they actually signed up for. Like they pay tribute so that the clan defends them in time of war. Like a time of war should just be expected. Like it's gonna happen at some point. But they've gone so long that they don't even remember what war is. And so they're all freaking out when it finally comes, and like, and Hilo's basically saying like, no, this is the norm. Like this is what happens. Like we, you know, clans fight and there is criminal violence and stuff like that. And so I really liked it when Hilo said that, because like I said at the beginning of the book, like, or at the beginning of the show today, I'm like, I wanted more like crime violence. I wanted more like everything is so peaceful and stuff. And then we get to this and it's like, okay, like Hilo knows the score, and he's telling all these pacified lantern men and politicians, like, no, war is coming. And so, yeah, I just really liked that.
Yep. And a good instance of that is, well, do you remember the name of the guy that owns the Twice Lucky and works there and does all that stuff?
Mr. Uni.
Mr. Uni. So when Gaunt comes into the Twice Lucky and basically says, like, if you don't pay tribute to me, like, you're gonna die. And he's like, I can't. My family's been here for so long. I can't do it. I can't do this. And then finally he gets to the point where Mr. Uni's like, all right, I'm gonna burn your building down. Or no. Gaunt Ash is like, I'm gonna burn your building down. And then Mr. Uni's like, I don't have a choice. Okay, I'll pledge allegiance to you. And then of course later, and another cool part of like Hilo, like that I've seen, right, is that later on, like after the battle's done and whatnot, like he goes back to the Twice Lucky and Mr. Une brings Hilo his ear, cut off his ear. It's a sign of like respect, saying I'm sorry that I did this. Like, here's my ear, you can have it and whatnot. And he sets it down on the table and Hilo touches it. And apparently touching it is a sign of acknowledgement. Like he's like, okay, I understand what you did. I respect it. And here's my answer type thing. And so I'm having a hard time connecting that to what you said, but that just popped up in my head.
No, that's a perfect segue from what I said. I think, it goes back to dedication and seeing how reliable some of these lantern men are.
Yeah.
And I think there was two ways that it was kind of evaluated at the end there. Hilo understands that this guy was put in a bad place. And honestly, if I was Hilo, I would have been like, hey, if that happens again, just do the same thing and we'll take this area back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I had the same thought, man. The same exact thought.
Like, just do what you got to do and we'll rescue you. Like, we'll exactly come back and take this territory over again. But don't let your shop get burned down, because we like it here.
For sure.
But also, like he says in that quote that I just read or paraphrased, lantern men, there needs to be some level of no doubt dedication, like some level of like, no matter what happens, I'm loyal to No Peak. And I think Hilo even says at the end, in so many words, like, if we don't get these people completely loyal to us, then we are completely fucked when the mountain comes. Like, they will just take over everything. If we don't have people that are willing to fight for us and to protect this area, like, we're completely screwed.
Yep.
And so I'm interested to see how that plays out and how many betrayals there are. And kind of like how, like, what level they can get No Peak to, like what level of like wartime readiness can they get everyone to.
For sure. Yep, for sure.
Do you want to talk about Andon not choosing not to accept his Jade at the end?
Sure. Yeah. Yep. So I was the least to say shocked. I was so surprised, but then at the same time, like, I wasn't. And the reason why I say that is because, like, I think all the stuff that happened to Andon with, the fight with Gaunt and the way that Jade made him feel, and then also Lon and the struggle with SN1 and how it killed him and this, that, and the other. I think that had a major part to play, but I was honestly shocked with that. Well, I shouldn't say shocked, because I really wasn't. Like, I was like, that it shocked me, but like, I was like, all right, that could be expected. That was like something that I could have thought that would happen and whatnot. And so that was pretty wild. I'm also like really proud of him. Like, I'm really deep down proud of him for that. Like that took a lot of balls. Everything everything that you've loved, everything that you've known for so long has been urging you towards this, right? And you made a quick decision and was like, I cannot be like them. I can't be like my mom. I can't do this. Like, I'm not the right person, for that and whatnot, which also at the same time, like, you're like, well, are you really not? Or like, could you maybe make it work? And that's Hilo's perspective. He's like, no, you've been through a lot. You've done this and that and this, and I've treated you the wrong way, and we've dealt with this wrong. We can get you some SN1 or more SN1 and help you with it. And it's just like, man, this is not what I want. And the ending of that was like heart-wrenching to me, because I think that Andon's perspective of Hilo is so important to him. Like his love, or Hilo's love towards Andon or whatever else, like his brotherhood was like so important to him. And watching that be smashed because of Hilo's anger, right? He's like quick to anger, like get out of my sight. I don't ever want to see you again. Don't ever come near me. Don't come near the family. This and that. And I was just like, oh my God, dude, I was almost crying. Like, it was so sad. I felt so bad for the dude. And yeah, so, and then also, just the last little thing to wrap that up. I love the way that Shay went and met him at the gravesite of Lon. And I thought that's Shay, man. She is such a sweet soul. Like, she is so kind-hearted, but also like kind-hearted but business, savvy in the same respect. Like, she knows what's going on. But yeah, man, that was kind of a jumble of emotions for me. It was kind of a roller coaster. It was up and down, like the entire, the 20 minutes that I listened to the scene and whatnot. It was very, very up and down and very kind of fast paced. So really at the end, last thing I'll say is like, I don't really know quite how I feel about it. Like, I think that it was good that he didn't, but then I'm like, but why didn't you? Like, you had everything there. And so I don't know. This kind of an internal battle of his choice for me. But I love the scene. It was a very powerful scene.
Absolutely. And I think, if he would take that Jade, he would live such a cushy life in the No Peak clan.
I mean,
like,
he would be,
Hilo would take care of him so much. And so it's crazy to see everything he's giving up. Like, he's not leaving John Loon to go back to his family or anything. Like, there is no family.
Anything. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
I know, dude.
So
I know.
sad.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, that was a fantastic scene. I was not sure if he was going to take the Jade or not. And then when he refused it, not only once, but twice, I was like, oh my God.
I know.
Like, I know. Come on.
Yeah.
But
it was wild.
What if, I want to say like, oh, you'll be fine. Like, if you take the Jade, but maybe there really is something with his bloodline that completely like fucks him up, and he can't use Jade well. But he's such a powerful character that he's got to come back at some point to help win some sort of battle or something later on. So.
No, I agree with all that, because I definitely have the same feeling. I was like, because I wanted him to take it, and I thought he would, but then, like you said, I thought about it, and it was like, well, but the evidence is there. The evidence is there that he'll lose it. That he can lose his mind and to get lost. And it's not only from his mom, but even the fight with Gaunt, right? Like the way that he felt and the way that it was described was like, man, that could become a problem if like he was. I don't know, but I agree.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all I got for favorite moments and stuff. Do you have any like questions for like the next book? Like what you want to know more about, or like what kind of like questions you have for it?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say, I mean, I guess it'd be questions, but I've just got some like thoughts. So, I'm curious to what is going to happen with Doru. I don't know what his plan is. Obviously, we don't know. We didn't get a lot of information other than he escaped, and he sent Shay that letter, saying like, I never wanted to hurt you, this and that, and I had to follow your grandpa's or however they say it. His thing, and so that's probably my most curious thing right now would be when and how Doru will come back into the story, if he does at all, which I have a feeling that he will, right? So that's really it for like the super questions that I have. Like, that's it for the big ones.
And with that too, he tells Shay to get out, like to leave, because otherwise she's can't
be trapped and stuck. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. yeah, I'm interested to know if there will be more magic in the second book, more Jade using and kind of more of a breaking down of that magic system and you know, kind of more uses for it.
For sure.
Because we hear a little bit in this book, I think, if I remember correctly, and I'm not mixing books up, of healing done with Jade, like channeling healing.
Yeah. Well, what's the doctor's name? Do you remember his name? It's like he was so he's a doctor that even Hilo was like, we gotta make him our clan doctor, and it was a doctor that channeled healing into a couple of the dudes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just a stray thought.
No, cool. So I'm hoping we see more of that healing and kind of like what can be done with that, who can do it, what kind of like experience you need to do it, and just overall more magic. I really would have loved it if we had seen more uses for the Jade in this book. Of course, like we just talked about, where is Andon and will he come back? When will he come back? Will Hilo let him come back? I think Ait Mata will eventually team up with No Peak to fight like a bigger enemy, maybe in like book 3 or something. They'll have to team up to fight a bigger enemy. Or my other theory is that she will recruit Andon. And
that's also been I'm
with you. Andon against them. I think that's super possible.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Well, before we wrap up here, where, if you had Jade, where and how would you wear it?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really this is unexpected. Okay, so if I had Jade, honestly, I would probably, depending on how much I had, I would want to wear some that's visible, right? But I would also want some that's not. And so I would tend to say, like, I really like Hilo's idea of like getting you know, studs implanted in his chest. So like if I was like Hilo, big Jade user, and I've been doing it and I can handle it, I would probably get it somewhere like, you know, stapled's a bad word, but like, you know, like implanted into my body somewhere where they couldn't see it. And then I would just wear this little bit right here. So then like, you know, people think like, oh, he's just got 3 stones or whatever else. And then they come at me and it's like, dude, no, I got a lot more, you know? So that I would just follow Hilo's take on that probably.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll see anybody who has had it like surgically implanted into them, like under their skin. Because that's probably what I would do. I think having like one hand full of rings would be cool, because then you can use them as knuckles. What else would be cool? I definitely would not get an earring.
No, or an eyebrow piercing, because I talk about that like an eyebrow stud. Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. I don't want anywhere on my face. Like definitely not. Yeah, I agree.
Like even besides people like pulling it off, like imagine getting hit there and then your earring goes like into you, and same with the eyebrow. Like that would really
hurt
suck
bad. Yeah, that would suck.
But yeah, I think rings, or like kind of like a really close fitting necklace, something that can't be used against you. Something that somebody can't really like get their hand into, or just like really tight fitting.
Yeah, for sure.
I would have to make sure that it couldn't be taken off me like in the middle of battle or something. So who knows? All right. Any final thoughts about this book before we head out?
I don't think so, man. Other than I just recommend it. I really do. I think that people should read it. I think it's a great book, and I think some people won't like it, but I think a majority of maybe our viewers and the people that listen to more fantasy stuff and whatnot would actually really like it. So I give it, like I said, 8 out of 10. It's a great book. Listen to it. Try it or read it, whatever you do, just try it.
Yeah, definitely. I I really liked this book, and I'm really looking forward to the next two, especially when we get to Jade Legacy. I'm super excited to see how she wraps up this entire story.
For sure.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to wrap us up. Thank you so much for listening to us chat about Jade City. Be sure to join us as we read the rest of the trilogy this month, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel down below if you have not already. And follow us on Twitter at Files Fantasy, or just look up the Fantasy Files podcast in the search. What did you guys think of Jade City? And what's the second book like? We would love to know if the second book is good. And if you had your own Jade, where would you wear it? Let us know in the comments down below. And until next time, I need to go remove my Jade because it's chafing my ass.
Oh man, that's too funny.